Welcome into another edition of What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. On this week's program, carbon monoxide, the silent killer. It is Carbon Monoxide Awareness Week. We find out more about what it is, what it can do to you, and how to keep it from doing it to you. Eating disorders, RVH, and Aurelia Soldiers Memorial Hospital have teamed up on a program to help youth who get caught in that quagmire. Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall makes his regular monthly appearance, bringing an update on how the city is progressing on addressing affordable housing and the need for housing in the city in general. The Barrie Colts had a better week, and a lot of kids are having a better week on the ice thanks to McDonald's and its AtoMc program. We learn more about its impact on kids' hockey and how to take advantage of it. We get the conversation started after this. This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. Affordable housing still top of mind for Barrie Mayor Alex Nuttall, but also jobs for people moving into new homes the city wants to see built. He stopped by this week for his monthly chat, this time with Barrie 360's Will Konken.
Lots on the housing front, Mayor. Let's start with Barrie's affordable housing strategy. There's an affordable housing strategy on November 9th coming up. There's a survey the public can fill out. The city has a list of action items, I believe. The strategy is being developed in 3 phases. What's the end goal?
I think there's the end goal is to make sure that housing in Barrie is affordable for folks who work and live here. When you think about the cost of housing and how it's gone up over the last 20 years here in the city, I think it's a very difficult thing for Barrie families, for young people, for seniors trying to downsize. The costs are exorbitant. And so if we can create a strategy that going forward, individuals who are looking for a home, looking for housing, a long-term place to live, are able to access that and provide that stability for themselves and their families, I think that's obviously the main goal of the entire strategy.
And then on top of that, the Ford government recently announced it was reversing the plans to change the urban boundaries of Barrie and a few other municipalities as well, after finding the decisions were not made in a manner that maintains and reinforces public trust. So what changes, if any, were in store for the Barrie boundaries? So
the city of Barrie boundary didn't change in advance. I think there was a little bit of a misunderstanding in the media on that. We didn't have a boundary change in advance, but the Ford government did rescind some of those changes in other places. But that doesn't mean that it's not an important subject that we need to talk about. When you think about the city of Barrie, we've grown to the south. We've grown, there was what I refer to as the annexation lands came in from Innisfil. Those lands, when they were first announced, were supposed to be somewhere in the neighborhood of 30,000 people and 10,000 jobs developed. In the final vote, when it finally came forth, it was more like 45,000 people and 5,000 jobs. When you think about Highway 400, we already have 40,000 people jumping down the highway a day. We have lots of land for housing. We have lots of opportunities to build housing in our downtown through intensification along the highway corridors. I think about the old fairgrounds. We have other places throughout the city where intensification is appropriate. And then we have obviously the greenfield build out in the annexation area. What we don't have is jobs for these people that are moving here. And so we need to make sure that we have the appropriate industrial supply to meet the demand of the individuals who are moving here. I don't want a city that you have to be on the highway at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. I want you at your breakfast table with your family if that's where you want to be. I want you at your dinner table with your family if that's where you want to be, not sitting on a 400 parking lot trying to get home or to work.
How impactful was the announcement when it came down at City Hall?
Well, I think there's a lot of questions. Impactful in the sense that we weren't really sure about some of the boundary pieces because we didn't have a change of boundary. But with regards to the OP, I think it was just a sort of what's happening here. And, I've spoken to the minister since. It sounds like they got a sound plan moving forward. In the city of Barrie, I hope that we provide more comments on the official plan for the city of Barrie because it's now open for comment. And really try to drive home how we're going to meet this housing crisis and how we're going to meet, jobs for those individuals that are calling Barrie home.
It's been over a year now since Queen's Park set the goal of building 1.5 million new homes. Specific targets were set for 29 communities, I believe, to hit by 2031. The 10-year target for Barrie is 23,000. Where are we at now with that?
Well, it depends how you measure it. The process to build a home is obviously a very long one. If you imagine buying a piece of property and then you've got to go through, make sure it fits the official plan and the zoning's correct, and then you've got to have a site plan for it, and then you've got to go get permits, and then the construction starts, right? So it's an onerous, long process. So we're trying to do everything we can to move, to get things through City Hall as fast as possible. So this year alone, I think we've approved somewhere in the neighborhood of 5,000 units, 6,000 units. I think by the end of the year, we'll have approved essentially 10,000 new units. To put that in perspective, the city of Barrie is 50,000 residential units. So that's 20% approved in 1 year. We're going to far surpass the 23,000 approved units that we need to meet. And then it's on to making sure that these units are actually built. That they're getting in the ground, and that there's actual doors and roofs over people's heads, not just pieces of property that are sitting there with approvals. And so we've been working with the building community to make sure that we can remove any barriers that are in the way. This year alone, I think we're, last check late last week was about 1,600 units that have been started for construction. We're up somewhere around 50% year over year. When you look at the occupancies year over year, we're about 80% up over last year. And so I think there's a lot of really awesome things that are happening in the city of Barrie to meet the housing demands and the targets set by the province. And I would say that we're one of the leaders around the province in terms of having a plan to actually meet our goals and targets set by the province.
Yeah, you kind of hinted at it there. Approval and actually building new homes are kind of like two different things. You can't force developers to build. So how do you kind of get there? Yeah,
I think that it's really important that we have a good relationship with the building and development community, just like it's important we have a good relationship with every other community in the city of Barrie. And that means that they have to live within our rules. And it also means that we need to make sure that we move with speed to allow them to be able to hit market. And so, we're constantly having those conversations. Any hiccups we see, we try to remove the barriers. Some of this stuff is widespread when you think about, a development charge by law. It impacts everyone equally. And then sometimes it's, hey, I can't seem to get a response on this piece of my site plan. Mayor and council, can you help? And our council's there to help and try to remove barriers, assuming that everyone's playing within the rules.
Really appreciate your time, Mayor.
Thank you so much for having me today.
Crossing over the blue line, off the boards, behind the frog eyes. Ronald passes to Grimace. There's a backhand pass to Hamburglar. Back to Ronald. And on goal! He scores! What a goal by Ronald McDonald!
McDonald's in hockey. They've been partners since 2011 to help fund kids hockey in communities across the country, including here in Barrie. Barrie 360's Ian McLennan gets the game plan from local McDonald's owner-operator Jason O'Neill.
McDonald's Canada is supporting minor hockey. Tell me how that's going to be incorporated within our municipality here in Barrie.
Yeah, McDonald's is so pleased to have been supporting the McDonald's AtoMc program since 2011. And we've been able to help out young kids to the tune of 550,000 kids since inception. So really what we're doing is we're helping them with the cost of hockey, because we want to make sure more kids have accessibility to it with jerseys, socks, toques, and coaching equipment.
And since 2011, 230 teams, over 3,800 players, Barrie, Bradford, Orillia, have been supported by this program. Is that correct?
That's correct, and we're so pleased to give back and help out. Ian, I think that sport is so incredibly important for children. These boys and girls, it builds confidence, it builds courage, accountability, and discipline. And the funny thing is, that's exactly what we look for when we're trying to hire our team members when they turn 15. We're looking for people just like that who are part of a social network, who are getting out there physically and exercising mentally, because it really helps them build themselves so they can be a good team member.
And we know whether it's professional or even minor hockey, there's pressure when you're on the ice, and no different than having worked at McDonald's myself back in the day. Sometimes it can be a little pressured and hectic too, right?
Yeah, and it's all about teamwork. Yep. And you're only as good as your weakest link. And so on a team, that's what people learn, is they learn how to support each other, how to make each other better, and really deliver goals, or maybe they're delivering hot coffee.
And ice hockey is an expensive sport too. So this is so important for kids who want to play, but financially it may not be viable.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do, is we're trying to offset that cost, also to make sure that the coaches have the best tools. And a hats off to those coaches, because they're volunteers as well, and they're making a difference in these children's lives, learning life skills. But I think one of the coolest things we do is we make sure that there's the best teammate of the day, and they get to wear the golden jersey. And often we're trying to make sure that they get a Happy Meal with that, or do other things just to make sure that they feel special, to feel a part of the community.
Now, is there any way the community can get involved with this program too?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is come out, and if you know someone on the team, these are typically 11-year-old boys and girls across Barrie, Bradford, and Orillia, and come out and support them. And we'll continue to do what we can to make sure that we are offsetting the costs, and also making sure that they feel that they're a real part of this community.
Have you seen examples yourself personally where a kid has been supported by this program?
Absolutely. We've done a number of different things. One year we actually had Hockey Day in Barrie, where we had Ronald come into town. We had the Barrie Colts announcer. We did O Canada before. We did interviews with the team members in the dressing room. We had special gifts for them. And I got to tell you, and the funniest one was, there was a young boy who said, "This is perfect. It's preparing me for the future." And they said, "Well, what do you mean?" He said, "Well, when I'm in the NHL, this is how it's going to be." And that was a very special day.
You want more information? Go to atomchockey.ca. After losing all 3 of their games 2 weeks ago, the Barrie Colts got back on track last weekend, winning 2 of 3 games, including a 6-1 victory over league-leading Mississauga. Will Konken returns with a look behind the scenes with Colts broadcaster and writer Gene Pereira.
It's the opposite of the last time we chatted, Gene. Colts got 2 wins out of their 3 games. Lost to the Erie Otters 4-2, but picked up a big win against the Steelheads 6-1, then wrapped up the weekend with a 5-1 win over the Bulldogs. Bo Jelsma was looking pretty good, eh?
Yeah, it was certainly one of those, another 3-3 weekend, and unfortunately for Barrie, it started much like last weekend, ended up with struggles on specialty teams and a loss to Erie. But Friday night, you're facing a team that in Mississauga, that's the first place team in the OHL, undefeated at home, 5-0, and has played really well at home. And what happens? But Barrie ends up with a 6-1 win, and Bo Jelsma. You talk about heart and soul and character guys, and that's Bo to a T. And you look to your leaders to lead the way, and he did that exactly. A 1-1 hockey game. Barrie had actually got a goal to go ahead early, which is something they hadn't been doing. They had been falling behind. And then Bo came back with 2 big goals in the third period that made it 3-1 and really helped carry Barrie to that win in Mississauga. And you could just tell that Bo really wanted to win. He hadn't scored in a few games. I think he had a 6-game scoreless skid there, but he had still played well. But again, you look to your leaders, and it really speaks volumes to Bo. Just his effort there on Friday night, and then of course Saturday you're coming back to play Brantford at home, and you don't want to kind of let go on that pedal. In the fact that you want to keep it going, and Barrie did exactly that against Brantford, a team that had come in winning 3 games on their own and playing some good hockey. And Barrie again played really well, 5-1 win. And again, really limited chances against, and that was a big factor all weekend.
Opposite outing as well for Seattle Kraken prospect Edward Chalet.
Yeah, he had back-to-back goals with Mississauga and Brantford, and I think you're starting to see him just again get a little bit more comfortable. And I thought Edward played, really well. That top line with him, Gelsman, Frasco were just outstanding. And again, that's the line you look to. When you're losing, you want your top line to lead the way, and they did exactly that over the weekend in helping Barrie kind of dump that 4-game losing skid. So, but Chalet, who's a ton of skill, and you start to see it. And I think a lot of it has to do with just the chemistry to his line mates. It's take a little bit of time, but you're starting to see, them grow more comfortable with each other on the ice, and now you're seeing the results.
Some other good news, Sam Hilbrand got OHL Goaltender of the Week, had a good performance, especially against the Steelheads.
Yeah, I think Sam, is clearly kind of starting to wrestle that number one job away from Ben West, and a young netminder. And again, he's one of these guys you watch. He's just steady and composed, and he played well. And I thought Barrie did a good chance of limiting the chances on Friday and Saturday, but Hilbrand came up with some big stops, especially in that game against Mississauga. That first period, he made 2 outstanding stops late in a 1-0 hockey game where Mississauga had a 2-on-1 with a great chance, and he made a great save coming across the crease. And then again, when Mississauga a couple of minutes later had a 2-on-none, and he made a big stops, that kept Barrie up at 1-1. Mississauga would tie it, but again, it allowed them to carry the lead into the second period, and they got a couple of goals from Gelsma. But Hilbrand, again, it was nice to see him rewarded with Goaltender of the Week, and I think he's coming to his own. You saw him; he got into 3 games last year, but now an opportunity to play a bigger role, and he's taking advantage of it.
Colts now hit the road, play Kingston on Friday, get the day off, then in Ottawa on Sunday. What's the biggest thing you want to see from the team out of this road trip?
I think you want to see consistency, Will. And again, I mean, a couple things to point out from the weekend, right, was that they were much better on specialty teams. Of course, that's been a big factor. But I think for Wells, getting those good starts early, getting ahead, and that kind of builds confidence. And then as well, too, I think in both those wins, Barrie had leads going into the third period. And what do there? They scored 2 goals early in the third to kind of make it 5-1 and really kind of put that game away against Mississauga. And then again, they score early in the third against Brantford, and that kind of helped carry them. And it's that type of thing is you don't want to see that, take the foot off the pedal there and allow another team to kind of creep back in. And 60-minute hockey, it's a cliche, but I think Barrie, we saw that over the 2 games, and that's what you want to see is that consistency throughout the game.
Looking forward to see how they handle the road trip, and as always, your write-ups. Thanks again, Gene.
Thanks, Will.
What Barrie's Talking About is a weekly podcast featuring the best Barrie and Simcoe County have to offer and more. We've covered a lot of ground since we began 2 summers ago, got caught up with Innisfil singer-songwriter Kyle Walkup, and went behind the scenes with film director Ron Chapman to learn more about what many believe was the second most important rock concert next to Woodstock, the Toronto Rock and Roll Revival at Varsity Stadium in 1969. You can get caught up and make it easy to keep up in the future by subscribing to What Barrie's Talking About through any podcast distributor. Still to come on What Barrie's Talking About, eating disorders among youths are on the rise. RVH and Aurelia Soldiers Memorial Hospital teaming up to help, and we talk carbon monoxide, what it is, how it can kill you, and why you need an alarm for that as well as a smoke alarm in your house. Now this.
It's cool to care.
It's a well-known fact blood transfusion saves lives. It's also a well-known fact that the world relies on voluntary unpaid donations to fill the need for blood. The need for blood never ends. Canadian Blood Services in Barrie is calling on you to help save a life. Please consider donating today. Appointments are mandatory and must be booked in advance. Book today at blood.ca through the Give Blood app or by calling 1-888-2-DONATE.
Cool to Care is brought to you by the Peggy Hill team, keeping it real all the way to sold. Reach out now at peggyhill.com.
It's cool to care with 107.5 Cool FM.
This is What Barrie's Talking About from Barrie 360. I'm Dan Blakely. RVH and Aurelia Soldiers Memorial Hospital have launched a Simcoe-Muskoka Regional Eating Disorder Program aimed at youth in the community. Here again is Ian McLennan with Laura Ferris, a Director of Women and Children's Programs at Soldiers Memorial.
Squeeze it down for us. What is this program and what does it offer?
Basically, it addresses the urgent needs for specialized eating disorder services in our region. It provides a comprehensive, evidence-based outpatient treatment program to children, adolescents, and young adults under the age of 25 within Barrie, Orillia, and the surrounding area.
Now, was there some type of program like this already at one of the hospitals, or what's different if there is?
We did have a program previously, but it did not have best practice standards built into it because there is very limited research on treatment for eating disorders. It's come to light over the last couple years. So this new program delivers family-based therapy and enhanced cognitive behavioral therapy for disorders like anorexia nervosa, bulimia nervosa, and other specified feeding or eating disorders, which is a category of eating disorders that includes conditions that do not meet full criteria for other specific eating disorders, but still represent a significant clinical concern and impairment in functioning or health.
And this is for those under the age of 25, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Historically, we only treated patients up to the age of 18, but we have incorporated a transitional aged youth program to help patients up to the age of 25. Previously, patients after the age of 18 would be discharged from the program, but at the age of 18, this is a very important time in one's life where you're transitioning to university or college, and we really want to support these patients through this time period as well.
And when you say help, what does that help look like for the patient and the family, and whether it's in a hospital setting or outside, or how would you define the help that's offered?
It's an outpatient setting, so our family-based therapy is with the patient's family as well. It is done over 20 weeks with one treatment session a week, and it's very regimented in what the patient would go through in each session. And then the cognitive behavioral therapy program is a little bit different, where it's one-on-one and it's 2 sessions a week. So it is a little bit different. It's dependent on what type of eating disorder you have and which one would best match the patient and what they're going through at that time.
Now, there are long wait lists for treatment. So does this bridge that somewhat in case the patient needs additional services, maybe at a center like Sunnybrook or what have you?
Yeah. So, currently we have a wait list of 95 patients awaiting treatment, but with the implementation of our new program, we are very optimistic about significantly reducing wait times to ensure that patients going forward receive care in a more prompt and efficient manner, because what we do know is that early identification and treatment of eating disorders results in much better outcomes.
Are we seeing more cases of young people with eating disorders even before the pandemic, or is there any rhyme or reason, if that's the case, why it's happening?
Eating disorders have always been around, and we were able to somewhat manage the caseload prior to the pandemic, but during the pandemic, we observed deeply concerning trends at both Royal Victoria Regional Health Centre and Orillia Soldiers Memorial Hospital. The number of people struggling with eating disorders escalated dramatically, exceeding increases of 200% or more. And this wasn't just a statistic to us, it reflected a real growing crisis in our community. This surge in cases led to unprecedented rises in hospital admissions as well. So more young individuals were in urgent need of specialized care, and then this influx inevitably resulted in significantly longer wait lists, where we were unable to meet the demands within the community and provide timely and effective care.
Were health officials able to put a finger on why the increase?
It's not fully known, but just I believe the isolation of children being at home, being on social media more often, and being isolated and not being around their friends or family, like extended family members, really caused this kind of a trickle effect. It was almost the endemic of our pandemic was this significant rise in eating disorders. It was ultimately like this critical scenario that resulted in the development of our new eating disorder program. We recognized the urgent need for specific treatment options, and this program is committed to providing the latest evidence-based care.
Is there a breakdown in terms of gender? Is it more prevalent among young girls, young females compared to male?
I wouldn't say that. It is. I would say obviously females are slightly more impacted, but we still do have a male population as well that we see in this program. And these
eating disorders, sadly, they can be deadly.
Absolutely. Most notably anorexia nervosa. That is one of the disorders that is identified as having a high mortality rate.
And if people wish to get their loved one into care, where can they reach out to follow through?
You can go on RVH's website, and there is a referral form, and it just needs to be filled out by a physician or nurse practitioner, and the form would then be sent to our centralized intake, and then from there you would get a call from one of our healthcare providers.
Again, for more information, log on to rvh.on.ca, then enter a search for Simcoe Muskoka Regional Eating Disorder Program. It's a sneaky gas, carbon monoxide, a byproduct of the fuel-burning appliances in our homes, and it can be a killer. Barrie Deputy Fire Chief Carrie Clark and fire educator Kate Foster dropped in to promote the use of carbon monoxide alarms and offer advice on what to do if it starts beeping.
What is carbon monoxide, or CO, and how is it produced?
Carbon monoxide is an invisible gas. It's odorless, tasteless. You can't see it, you can't smell it, but it is produced by any device that burns a carbon-based fuel. So it could be wood, natural gas, propane, any of those types, heating oil, any of those things creates a lot of different off gases, and one of them is carbon monoxide. So if you have any of those devices in your home, water heater, dryer, furnace, wood stove, fireplace, gas insert fireplace, or if you have an attached garage where you start your car, where you might run a snowblower for a period of time, that can also migrate into your home.
Okay. And then I'd like to know the history of carbon monoxide alarms. Could you guys dive into that as well?
In the early 80s, when houses started to get more energy efficient and they were tighter and didn't have the same amount of air leak, it became obvious that we had a problem with carbon monoxide. So because the houses were tighter and there was less air leakage, the carbon monoxide would build up in the house and be, serious injuries or fatalities were developing from carbon monoxide. So the industry address that by making carbon monoxide alarms, which have a little sensor in them that builds up cumulative carbon monoxide to give you a warning that you have a problem in your home.
Why are they placed in specific areas?
So we like you to have them in the area where you're sleeping. Carbon monoxide is the same molecular weight as air, so it circulates freely in your home with the forced air gases that we have in our homes. So we want it to be where you're sleeping, because that's when all the doors are closed in your home, all the windows are, everything is nice and tight as a bug while you're sleeping. But that's also when it can build up. It can build up anytime, but that's when you're the most vulnerable because you're asleep. So we want it to be in the areas where you're sleeping, so you'll hear it, wake up, and go outside.
What are the fines if people are found without a carbon monoxide alarm in their home, or if it's not working?
So the fine is actually $360. It's the same as if you didn't have a working smoke alarm. The more important part is that people don't realize that a carbon monoxide emergency is an emergency. When they see smoke, it triggers them to act. They can't see it, they can't taste it, but the alarm's going off and they don't believe it's an emergency. So we really get a lot of calls on our non-emerge lines, like, my alarm's beeping, I'm not sure what to do. Or it was beeping, so I unplugged it and it stopped beeping, but now it's beeping again. When it's beeping, it's probably an emergency because you can't see it like smoke, but it really is an emergency. So we need you to call 911 and follow the directions of our dispatchers, which are to close all the doors and windows and get out of the house. We know it's cold, we know it's dark, we know it's snowing, whatever, but we really need you to be outside because the gas that's in your home is poisoning you.
With the time change coming up, people are changing their clocks. Could also check the carbon monoxide alarms and the batteries in those as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In the fire service, we like to say change the hour, check the power. And that really goes for your carbon monoxide alarms as well as your smoke alarms. So we want everyone to get into the habit when you do turn your clocks forward or back to make sure that you've checked the power on your smoke alarms and your CO alarms. So oftentimes our CO alarms do get missed, but they're just as important. So you need to make sure that they have power, that they're in good working order so that they can detect that poisonous gas that could be in the air and give you the appropriate warning you need to get out safely.
Carbon Monoxide Awareness Week runs until the 7th, I believe. What does Barrie Fire have planned for it?
Yeah, so this year we are going to head out to Home Depot during Carbon Monoxide Awareness Week. So on November 2nd, we're going to be at Home Depot from 2 to 4:30 p.m., have information, literature, giveaways, things like that, just to help anyone who may have questions about these alarms and devices, just to help you be more knowledgeable and empower you to feel good and safe in your home. And we'll also be out on November 6th as well, doing the exact same things. So just trying to bring awareness, helping everyone feel confident in making your home as safe as possible.
If you're considering buying a new carbon monoxide alarm, try and consider getting one that has a digital readout on it. 0 is the goal, but if you do see anything other than 0, maybe 5 or 8, those are signals to you, alerts that something in your home isn't working 100%. So to get a technician in for whatever carbon fuel burning appliance you have, to check it and make sure that there's not any maintenance that needs to be done. So just, when you're walking by it on the way to the bedroom, just look for the number and make sure it's 0. If it's not, have a tech come in.
You can find information on barrie.ca/fire safety. We have a lot of great tips there, information, insight on not only CO alarms and what carbon monoxide is, but also, again, our smoke alarms and what's required of you so that you can be knowledgeable and making sure that, again, your home is as safe as possible.
We really appreciate your time today.
Great. Thank you so much.
And that's our program for this week. Thanks to Ian and Will for their input, to Matt Ladder for his technical tinkering, and to you for listening. If you like what you've heard, please subscribe to What Barrie's Talking About, rate it, review it. You can also keep up with What Barrie's Talking About on X at Barrie360, on our website, Barrie360.com. Some of you can still see us on Facebook, and there's our daily Kickstart podcast available from any streaming service and on our website. I'm Dan Blakely. Hope you'll join us again next week.